What's up, guys? It's Will back again, and today I'm here to review Venom: Let There Be Carnage. This is a film I've been highly anticipating, despite the fact that I don't have much love for the first one. I enjoyed the Venom-Eddie bromance like a lot of people, but ultimately I did find the first story to be a letdown, the first film to be a letdown. Nonetheless, I was looking forward to seeing the sequel because I was excited to see how Carnage would be unleashed, and just how Cletus Cassidy's story would collide with Eddie Brock and Venom's. I'm happy to report that I think this film is good. I do think it's going to be satisfying for most fans who are looking for a fun reunion with Eddie and Venom, and for Carnage and Venom to fight it out on screen. That's what most people are going for. But I don't think it's going to be unanimously loved. I've already seen a lot of people sort of not like the film. The critics have given it just below a fresh score as of me recording this video. So, unsurprisingly, the two best aspects of this film are the Eddie and Venom bromance, and then the Carnage on screen. That's kind of what most people are going for, I think, and the film really does play it up to those two elements, and they do it pretty effectively. The humor, I will say, though, is really dialed up this time. Venom and Eddie had a fun dynamic in the first one, but in the sequel, they're more comfortable with one another, so there's a lot more banter back and forth, a lot more comfortable banter back and forth. In some ways, Venom does feel like an MCU character here. He jokes around a lot, and he does bring a lot of comedy to an otherwise pretty dark story. The sequel feels more MCU-like than the original did, which is part of the reason I think the film feels a little more balanced this time around, but I think it also works because the villain is just much more compelling than the first time around. Cletus Cassidy, while still a bit underdeveloped, is a much more interesting villain than Carlton Drake/Riot from the first one, in part because he brings Carnage to the screen and he's iconic and awesome, and in part because he's unpredictable and that makes for edge-of-your-seat content. They do try to develop Cletus by explaining a bit of his backstory and what motivates him, but it does end up feeling a little half-baked. A big part of it is his connection to Shriek, played by Naomi Watts, but it doesn't really feel like there's enough meat on the bones to propel the story to the emotional heights that the film is shooting for. At times, the film does try to even evoke sympathy for Cletus, but there's not enough exploration into his backstory for that to feel earned. Regardless, Woody Harrelson does a really great job here with the character. He feels crazy and sporadic and unpredictable, and it all works for Carnage's character, for Cletus' character. There's just not strong enough writing to make the character feel as dynamic as it seems the filmmakers wanted him to be. Tom Hardy is excellent as Eddie Brock. In the first film, I was a little more critical of him because it felt like he was sort of on autopilot. It just felt like he wasn't all there. Something just wasn't quite clicking, and it just felt like the performance and the character weren't meshing quite in a way that I was used to seeing from Tom Hardy. That said, in the sequel, Tom Hardy really hits his stride and does bring a more balanced performance that allows Eddie Brock to deliver some really funny moments, combined with some more dramatic moments that allow the character, and the audience to really connect with Venom and Eddie in a more meaningful level. Similarly to Cletus, though, the strength of this film is, again, not its character development. It does a decent job, but Eddie remains a fairly shallow character with not much going on for him in the way of growth. If it weren't for his attachment to Venom, the character would really not be all that interesting. But since he is a dynamic duo with Venom, the two elevate one another and it works pretty well. Venom himself works beautifully in this film, though. He's much funnier than he is in the first film, and it truly does feel like Andy Serkis and Sony really leaned into the comedic side of Venom to make, the experience more well-rounded and fun, which I think people can find enjoyment in. I think one area that people could possibly be disappointed in is the amount of time you see Venom actually in action. Venom is in this film quite a bit, but he's mostly interacting, not fighting. The first, handful of Venom scenes, sprinkled throughout the film in the first one, and they're really badass. You get to see Venom, fight a SWAT team. You get to see Venom fight Carlton Drake's men, and you get to see, Venom's, combat skills. And in this one, that's not really the case. In this film, you get that more so with Carnage, and they leave Venom's fighting until the climax, which is fun, but there were times where I missed seeing Venom in action, rather than simply seeing him make jokes and interact. The film does move at a very fast pace, though, and there's not a lot of time to really explore much in any significant detail, because the film does elect to pretty much gloss over a lot, to maintain a very slim runtime. I still find myself entertained with the story, but I can't help but wonder how much more compelling the characters in the story would have been with more time to explore the themes of the story. What most people, though, are going to a superhero movie for nowadays is, in fact, the Carnage. Seeing cool characters do cool things is the primary selling point, but it's not the only selling point. But you do get that here, so that is important. Seeing Carnage unleashed is certainly entertaining, and seeing Venom fight Carnage near the end of the film is worth the price of admission. I think the film does enough things right to be satisfying, and that's really the main thing you're going for, but it should do more than that, and it does at a pretty solid level. Nonetheless, there's good performances and interesting characters all around. Though, and Michelle Williams doesn't get enough credit, I think, for her work in these films, but she is really good, and I don't think this is a perfect film, but I think her and the other actors do a great job with the material they're given. The film has pacing issues, and it's a very flat, shallow look at these characters. Much of the story just moves without much time for the audience to connect the dots, but it still works at a good enough, satisfying level. I think superhero movies are continuing to grow and evolve, and we're seeing how emotionally resonant they can be. Venom is a step in the right direction for the franchise, but there still is room to grow. As for the pros cons though, for the pros, Venom Let There Be Carnage delivers good performances all around, a great dynamic between Eddie and Venom, a badass villain in Carnage, and fun spectacle. As for the cons, the film's pacing is much too fast to explore its desired themes meaningfully, and the characters are underdeveloped. I'm going to give Venom Let There Be Carnage an 8 out of 10 and recommend you check it out in theaters. I don't feel you need to see the first film to enjoy this one, and I just don't see it as a prerequisite. So I don't think you need to be a major superhero fan to enjoy this one, but I think if you like superhero films, you're just looking for a fun time, I think you'll have a good time with this one. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's satisfying. Make sure to let me know in the comments whether you've seen Venom Let There Be Carnage, and if you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it. I'm satisfied with it, especially considering I really didn't care much for the first one. For all my fellow collectors, I'm happy to have pre-ordered both Venom and Carnage, so I can't wait to add those to the collection because I did enjoy the film and I enjoyed seeing them in action fighting each other. So, you can do that on your display and it's gonna be pretty cool. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. I will see you all in the next video.